On in.
For authors, filmmakers, entertainment, and all your listening needs. Listen now to Talk Now Radio, where no topic is taboo.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Now Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man. And joining me today is Sahvanna Arienta. And we're going to be discussing her newest book, The Lightworkers Source. Well, I want to say newest, but I've actually had this one in the making for a while now, and I went in the hospital on a prior schedule, so she's had time to write another book, so we'll ask her about that before we call this the most recent, just to be on the safe side. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody that if you want to learn more about her, you can go to www.sahvannaarienta.com. And she has all her information on that one website. If y'all would like to call in, the number is 832-632-7904. And as always, you can ask questions in chat. However, now the chat room does require free membership. It's to keep the spam bots out. But we'd love to see people in the chat room asking questions. So, Sahvanna, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Royce. I'm so happy to finally be here with you. I know we had planned it a few times, so we're in the Mercury retrograde cycle, and it figures that we should come back full circle and finally get it together. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, I want to thank you for returning. I enjoyed our last interview together.
Yeah, I did as well. Thanks.
So, now, is this your most recent book we're talking about, or have you wrote another one since?
This is the most recent. There is another one in the making, but it's not yet completed. But the Lightworkers Source is the second in a series of books that really focus on the Lightworkers and just how they can help enhance their lives and kind of work with their abilities. And the next one will probably be on relationships. That's really what I'm focusing on. But the Lightworkers Source is pretty much filled with a lot of practices and a lot of different ways that you can use your abilities. Like the first book, Lightworker, kind of explained what a Lightworker was and, helped people learn about themselves. And the second book kind of teaches you ways to work with what you learned in the first book.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Kind of a 101 in-depth study, so to speak.
Exactly. It's got a lot of practices in it and a lot of tools that can help guide you to use your gifts, which is wonderful and helpful for a lot of people.
And also how to access your gifts, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of these gifts?
Well, like we talked about in the first book, if any of your listeners, got a chance to hear the first show or glance over the first book, the gifts that we talk about are empathy and intuition and awareness and all the different facets of yourself that help to make up your psychic abilities. Because we talk about the word psychic and it sounds so kind of mysterious and maybe even a little intimidating, right? But if we break it down,
sounds overwhelming.
Yeah, it kind of does for a lot of people. But really what it is just, the faculties that we're all born with and how to find out which one is our strongest point and how to enhance that and work with that. And, that kind of helps you to enhance your, quote, unquote, psychic abilities. We all have intuition on some level, right? So
that's what I've heard tell, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's actually true because, how do you account for knowing when somebody's fixing to call you and stuff like that?
Oh, definitely. And how do you know when you get that gut feeling or when you feel like just something is not right? That's intuition. And that is coming from a higher source because there's really no logical explanation a lot of times for that feeling other than that maybe, we're getting some guidance from somewhere else. And so we really need to learn how to recognize and trust our own intuition. And that helps enhance what we call our psychic abilities.
Is there a danger of getting a a negative outside source as well you got to be careful of?
I never really like to think that in terms of intuition or like I said, the natural gifts that we're all born with. They're all really to be used in the way you intend them to be used. So if you want to use your abilities in a way that's not for your greatest good or for the greatest good of anyone else, then I guess you can bring in some negative aspects, but it's really up to you. It's really a choice that we all have to make.
Okay.
I really believe that.
This here sounds a lot like the Psychic Self-Defense Handbook I once read by Jack Brackus.
Right.
I don't know if you heard of that book yet or not, but
yes, I have.
Oh, you have? Yeah, he goes into great detail. He was a ex-CIA agent, CIA operative, and he was also a martial artist, and he'd written a book on using your psychic to help defend yourself against physical as well as psychic attacks, in other words.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as being, psychic attacks, I think that we're all very, depending on our level of sensitivity, we're all vulnerable to other people's energies, and we're all affected by other people's energies. So, depending on how you're able to process those energies and kind of shield yourself, like he talks about the psychic self-defense, that's how it's going to affect you. So you have to learn, and there's a lot of practices in the Lightworkers Source that talk about shielding and protecting and kind of guarding yourself against other people's energies and absorbing other people's negativity, because that can happen very easily, especially for someone who's super sensitive.
Yeah, and I think it seems to me like, and again, this is nothing that I've had, I could say I've learned, through in-depth study, but it just from what I've noticed in my own life, that it seems like one of the best ways to get to somebody's psyche is by tugging on their ego with the anger and jealousy and hatred and inadequacy and things like that.
True. Again, the Lightworker Source does talk a lot about ego versus spirituality, and how ego is kind of like, it's a part of us really it's here for protection, and it's really filled with a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity. So the ego is the part of you that says, I'm not going to be able to do this, that I'm not going to be able to get this job, or I'm going to do terribly on this interview. It's there to really protect us, but sometimes it struggles with the spirit that is limitless. Your spirit can really manifest anything, but the ego kind of holds back. So that's true. The ego is a part of everyone. Even light workers have that part of that human awareness that's called the ego, and that's something that you have to kind of learn to temper a bit in order to really enhance your spirituality.
Does anybody ever really get to a point that they're just working naturally with the ego and it's no longer an obstacle, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, like I said, you can learn to balance the spirit and the ego. See, in Lightworker Source, I talk about that we all have to go through phases of our human existence, and the ego is a very important part of it, because when we're born, and we're born here on Earth, we need that part of us to learn how to, navigate Earth, not get hurt, and kind of like, experience everything on a physical level, because obviously we're here in a physical plane, right? So we can't operate on a spiritual level all the time. So you do need to have that part of yourself that's kind of grounded here in the earth and in the physical plane to keep you safe. But you do have to learn to balance. And if you're able to balance both spiritual and the ego part of your identity, then you're in a very, very good place.
Okay, that's I've heard that before too. As a matter of fact, isn't that similar teaching to what you find in Hermetic tradition?
Absolutely, and it's funny though, because in the book I kind of talk about the ego kind of like Freud does, like this, we have the id and the superego and how it pertains to light workers as well. So, that's a very interesting chapter in the book. It's chapter 3, which is called Humanness is an Illusion. And it talks all about the different stages and the different parts of the light worker's ego. So if anyone really wants to learn about ego and how it kind of balances out with your spirituality, chapter 3 in the Lightworkers Source explains that whole thing.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it'd be a good thing for anybody to catch up on too. I know that a lot of the woes in the world today can be traced back to various people at different varying levels and walks of life that's acting more on the ego than they are in the spirit, and there's no balance between the two.
Right. You can't be all ego, because then you're really, really too materialistic and you're too attached to the material plane, and that makes it very difficult for you to move on when the time comes. When the time comes for you to transition into the spirit world and leave this earth. If you're all ego and you're too attached to the physical plane, you're going to have a very difficult time, and that's when what they call you become an earthbound spirit, because you just cannot let go of the human part of your identity or the physical part.
Well, if you're too much on the spiritual side, would you have trouble maintaining your existence in this realm?
Yeah, exactly. That's why the Lightworkers Source teaches you how to balance that, because you do have two identities in one, and you have to adapt to the physical plane. You obviously are in a physical body and you're living in a physical world, so you have to be able to adapt and be grounded here. Otherwise, you're just you're not really carrying out your mission. You need your physical body and you need the physical world in order to carry out your soul's mission, right? So you have to be able to work with both.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. Because it kind of reminds me of sitting on the border of two countries. Like if you're going out, I want to say it's Highway 84, you'll come to a bridge right at the end of Texas, and on the other side of that bridge is Louisiana. And you might say like one side of that bridge, the Texas side, could be your ego, and the other side, the Louisiana side, could be your spirit. And if you get too far into the Texas side, you get lost. You have trouble finding your way back to the Louisiana side. If you go too far into the Louisiana side, you have that same kind of trouble coming back to the Texas side.
Yeah, exactly. You really got to find that middle ground.
That bridge, you might call it.
Yeah, because if not, you're not going to be able to carry out your spiritual mission, because when we all come here, we do have something to complete. And if you're not grounded and you're not in, really fully present here in the physical, your spirit's not able to carry out your mission. So you have to be on that, really in that middle ground.
So how do you find out what your mission is?
Well, that's really such a personal thing, Royce, that, I do help my clients to kind of like figure out why they're here or what they're here to do, but it's ultimately their discovery to make, because it's a journey in order to figure that out. Some people are here for healing. Some people are here for other purposes. So it's just something that as you go through life, you find what resonates with you. Where are you pulled? What makes you feel good? What brings you joy? And that's really where you belong. It's very, like I said, it's personal, and it's kind of a simple thing. People get a lot of very confused and caught up in society and what they're supposed to be doing or where they're supposed to be. But really, what resonates with you? What makes you feel like you belong? And then you know that that's really where you're supposed to be.
So it's, pretty much following your own heart.
Yeah, it's very simple.
Guide. Which in today's world, money is the main guide to a job, not the heart.
Exactly, and that's what confuses people, because the money part, like the saying goes, you cannot take it with you, and it's so true. If you're not helping others and you're not creating light in your life, you can't take the other stuff with you, but you will take with you the joy and the good things that you've done. So that's really what your purpose is. It's whatever resonates inside you and what makes you feel happy and what makes you feel in place, in your life.
Okay. Now, just while I'm thinking about it before I forget again, roughly how many more books do you think you're going to have in this series?
Well, I'm working on one more on relationships because a lot of my clients come to me with relationship issues. I find that people who consider themselves light workers or very sensitive people tend to get caught up in dysfunctional relationships very easily. And I help them through that. And this is what the next book would be on, is how to avoid that and how to find that fulfilling relationship without always feeling like you need to be the one to heal or to fix everyone. Being that people who are very sensitive or empathic tend to attract wounded others, people that are wounded, they get caught up in a vicious cycle. So the next book is really going to help light workers to really function in healthy, loving, and balanced relationships.
And it's kind of hard, I would imagine, to fulfill your own destiny and purpose while you're caught up in the middle of your mate's destiny and purpose.
Yeah, and you're being drained by someone who really doesn't want to help themselves but wants you to do everything for them. And sensitive people, light workers, will do that. They'll be drawn to people who are wounded and want to fix and want to heal. And in the meantime, they're being drained of their light energy and they're not able to complete any real healing work because they're caught up in this dysfunctional relationship. And I get phone calls every day of people saying, why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why do I keep attracting the same type of mate? And this is what the next book will be on, why this happens and how to break that cycle.
Well, some of these people that's sitting there trapped, that they get into, relationships with I know many of them are victim mentality, and they're stuck where they're at because they don't climb out of that victim mentality. But in some of those people's cases, could it be that that's what their purpose in life here is to experience that and know what it's like?
I think I think to an extent, but I don't think that they're here to be well, I don't want to use the word abused, but I don't think anyone is really put here for them to suffer. I don't believe that. I do know there are books and there's theories like that. I believe we're here to learn lessons, and I believe that we're here for a certain purpose in terms of karma and balancing, but I don't think we're here to be a punching bag for somebody else. I really don't. We have a choice, and we have a choice to make things better for ourselves. We're never born, with a plan that's, this is the way it has to be and that's it. I believe in destiny to a certain extent, but I also do believe in free will. So I think you can change that and you can really come out on the better side of a relationship that has a soul karmic or soul contract. So that answers that question is kind of yes and no,
Yeah.
So I do believe that happens. It happens, but I do believe that there's a lesson to be learned, and we can get out of that situation.
It's interesting. Well, while I was listening to you, the thought occurred to me that Jesus would have had no need at all to come to earth if there was if everything was predestined from the beginning. No one would be saved. There'd be no cause for him to call people to salvation. No need for him to be here.
Exactly.
So his very presence, according to the Bible, says that not everything is predestined, even as some things might be.
Yeah, I believe that it's kind of like this, in my opinion, Royce, and everybody has a different opinion. There's never any one absolute. But my opinion is that we're all set out on a road, and we can take a turn to the right or the left, or we can go straight. each destination is kind of planned out, but what do we choose? Which way do we choose? And that will take us to a certain place. So basically, the map may be all planned out before us, but we get to choose where we're going, which way we're going to go. And during the way, we're interacting with other people and their paths and the roads that they're on. So things shift all the time. So I do believe in a way that things are planned out, but we have a choice of which road to take.
Maybe one of the things we get to learn is be prepared for the unexpected.
Absolutely, because like I said, you're always interacting with other people and their journey, and maybe there's a bump in the road, or maybe you hit a dead end. So, you never know what's going to happen.
Or maybe one day you're watching TV and a big news feed comes across the screen, says the World Trade Center is blown up, and you never heard tell of anything so drastic at one time, and you're like, well, there's the unexpected. So,
exactly, and we've all experienced that one, right?
That and Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, I wasn't around during Pearl Harbor, but I was around to see the World Trade Center, and that was a day that I'm sure none of us will forget. And it did feel like the world was ending that day. It was scary, but during times like that, if you do hold on to your faith, it helps get you through. I was meditating, and a message came through the other day that said, it takes more courage to have faith than to slay a dragon that you can see and stands right before you, because you can't see your faith. So you have to have a lot of courage to believe in something that you can't see. So during that time of 9/11, it was really hard to see the good in people and the good in the world, but until we all maybe came together and started to help each other. But at that very moment, you really had to keep the faith, and it took a lot of courage to really believe there was a God and that, we were all safe, because it was so scary and it was just like pure evil. One of the only times.
It was like it, but it wasn't actually evil.
Well, it was one of the only times in my life that I felt, oh my goodness, this is scary, and I feel like we're being attacked by pure evil. That's how I felt at the time. But like I said, it took a lot of courage to really garner up that faith to know that there isn't all evil in the world, that we are protected, and that there are good things. So sometimes you have to be very brave to keep that faith.
And then too, a lot of people still have doubt, even if they believe there's an equal amount of good, because they'll say, but is the equal amount of good here where I'm at right now where I need it?
Well, that's why you have to keep that faith. Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's face it, be honest about it. It could be something as simple as going out to get a job, fixing your car, or a great spiritual evil. In all of it, the faith principle is the same. Without a faith in yourself and God in you, then yeah, you're going to probably fail if you just believe you're going to fail. There's no motivation to effort without that faith.
Exactly. And like I said, sometimes, faith is something that you really can't see. You can't hear it at times. And it's something that is like kind of intangible. So it takes a lot of courage to really hold on to that. But it's important. It's something that we all need in order to just get by day.
Yeah, sometimes getting by day does seem like this big evil monster in front of you.
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely. For a lot of us, I can understand that.
Well, yeah, because we all have our, what do you want to call that, day of the dark night or something like that?
Or the dark night of the soul. And I do write about that as well in the Lightworkers Source and explain what that is. And it's a time where we kind of really learn in a very shocking, a lot of times in sudden way, that the physical isn't what's important. Just like we talked about, you can have all the money in the world, but it can be taken away from you. Anything physical can be taken away from you. And during the dark night of the soul, you have to come to realize that the only real thing and the only thing that's truly yours is your spirit and your faith. So that's what the dark night of the soul is. A lot of times the catalysts that set it off are death of someone you care about, or problems with your health, or maybe a divorce, or the loss of anything physical, or the threat of the loss of anything physical. And it brings you down to a point where all you have left is your faith, exactly what we're talking about, and that you have to learn to believe in what isn't physical anymore. And that's what the dark night of the soul brings to you, and that's how it's a gift.
Yes, but if you make it through that dark night of the soul, doesn't what they call the quickening lie beyond it, where spirit comes in?
Absolutely. Once you're through that dark night of the soul, and it couldn't come more than once, but if you don't fully grasp it, but once you are really through it, you're transformed. You're a different person at that point now. Your perspective on life has changed forever. So yeah, it is something that after the dark night of the soul does come that quickening, and it is very transformational.
Though this reminds me an awful lot of what Joseph Campbell called the hero's story. You see it played out in Star Wars, for example, where the hero starts as a castaway, or without family, a very, very humble beginning, goes through all these trials and tribulations before he comes out the other end as the hero.
Right, exactly. But isn't he transformed at the end, not only as the hero, but now life is seen now through different eyes.
And he also, like at the right hand of the Father, so to speak.
Right. And that's the dark night of the soul. It is a transformational time that all spiritual people or light workers have to go through. And it's not because we all have to suffer in order to learn. It's because it brings us to a point that strengthens our faith and also kind of elevates us spiritually. So in a way, it's a gift, even though it's painful. Just like any growth spurt or any kind of transformation or change, it's scary and painful, but at the end there is light at the tunnel, and we do learn that we are eternal and our spirit is the only thing that's real. So that's very comforting as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the chair I'm sitting in ain't real according to quantum mechanics.
Uh-oh.
Makes you kind of hope you don't fall through. Talk about pulling a chair out from underneath somebody. You're not even touching it to do it. but yeah, you get your, quantum mechanics and, I guess you could say mysticism both agree on that point.
I would think so. Yeah. But, hopefully we don't fall through the bottom. We're able to, shift that focus and see the lighter side of things that occur during our life and learn from them. That's all about our ascension. It's about our spirit growing and moving up higher toward God. And, it's never easy.
But it does get a little bit easier if you're willing to acknowledge God and the gifts that God has given you, I think, doesn't it? I mean, a lot of people say, like, it's simple to be exercising psychic abilities, or it's sinful to be having out-of-body experiences. You're leaving yourself open to spiritual attack and yada, yada, yada. Mm. But really, in all honesty, don't you might never have to exercise these gifts in order to get closer to God?
Absolutely. And I don't know, Royce. It's funny though. Yes, there's things out there that I guess I have no fear whatsoever of spiritual attacks, or I don't know. I feel like I'm protected at all times, and I feel like that nothing can harm me. And I want everyone else that reads my books to also feel that way, because I don't want anyone to be afraid of their psychic abilities or paranormal or anything that's beyond the physical, and feel fearful that they're going to be attacked or something terrible is going to happen. So I don't know. I don't have any of those fears. When I do my work, I know it's coming from a place from God, and it's a gift. It's a gift for me to be able to practice my work, and I know my intentions are to help, and my work is done through love for others. So I don't fear any of that stuff.
Okay. Now, real quick, why don't you share with the listeners some of the things about the book that it's important to you for them to know?
Well, like I said, this book, The Lightworkers Source, has so many different practices for them to help learn about their abilities, their gifts, and also for them to be able to use them. Okay, so that's the most important part. When my editor came to me, he said, okay, we did the Lightworker, the book Lightworker. Now I want a book to tell people what to do with the gifts they have. And that's what this book is all about. It has how to raise your energy and vibration. It has how to use your dreams as a gateway to the other side. And it gives you step by step, practices that you can actually read through, and then you can do them. It teaches you how to handle empathy and how sometimes empathy can create weight gain or physical manifestations, and how to control that. It teaches you about your chakras, and also the most important chakra for the light worker is the heart chakra, and how to protect that. So there's so many different parts of this book that people are going to say, I always wondered this and how to do this, so this chapter is going to teach me that. So that's the kind of book that this is. It's a learning tool. So anyone who wants to learn how to use their gifts in any certain way, because there's hundreds of different ways here, should pick up this book and learn about how to use their gifts.
Okay. Now, do you have any workshops or forums or groups or anything like that people can go to learn a little bit more about it?
At this time, I really do not, because I've been working on some other projects. Aside from the book, I actually have a production deal for a television show, which is really exciting. And so I'm hoping that, that comes through. And I've been working with my production company on developing that. But as soon as that's all in place and that's ready to go, I probably will, hold some workshops, but I haven't been able to for the past 6 months. So I've been very, kind of busy with the book and also the production of the TV show.
Okay. Now, any idea what the name of this show is going to be?
Well, it's all tentative, but it's actually the name of the TV show it's called Brothers-in-Law. Now, this is very interesting. It's because my husband is a retired New York City detective. And also, my brother is also a detective. And they have a private investigations firm. And we work together. We all work together in solving cases. So it's kind of like a family show. It's not just about me. And it's about a psychic who's married to a detective, which is all 100% true. And, how we work together in solving cases. So it's pretty cool.
You're making me think about that other show with a psychic detective called Psych, I think it is.
I've heard of that show. That's kind of like a scripted show, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this right. This would be more of a documentary reality show, and we're hoping we have a production company, and we're hoping to. We just have to get it to a network, and we've been developing it for actually about a year. So it takes quite a while to get to network.
You might want to try A&E.
Oh, well, the production company we work with, they make the show Swamp People. I believe that may be on A&E. They do a lot of shows. So whoever they feel it's going to be best, well, that's where it's going to go. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a really good production company. And they're really working in, it takes a while in development first.
Well, you're going to have to let me know what channel and when this is coming out, because my wife's going to be wanting to see it.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be something everybody's going to really enjoy. It really is going to have a lot of different aspects, not only the the paranormal, but the real detective work. You know, my husband was a decorated New York City detective, and now he's actually a criminal justice professor at in a college. And, you know, he has so much to offer the public in terms of his knowledge. And then my side of it is kind of so different because his way of investigation is so concrete, where mine is so kind of abstract, right? So you have the odd couple, and it's really cool, and it's really kind of fun. So I think it's going to be interesting.
So I hope you don't mind me asking, but I'm dying of curiosity. Does your husband believe in psychic abilities?
That's the funny part about the show, is that he's in a constant state of confusion about the psychic abilities. He knows it works. He sees the results, but he can't, for the life of him, figure out how
it works.
Yeah, because, you know, being a detective, he's very analytical, and he's very much he needs to see evidence. He needs to see real kind of concrete
scientific.
Yeah, you know, they investigate. You know, he's trained to get, you know, obviously a police officer cannot arrest someone on an intuition or a feeling. So
God, I hope not, because they get all kinds of feelings about me.
Right. So it's kind of like it goes against his nature, but yet he sees that I'll tell him things that he, you know, it's so out of left field that he wouldn't even begin to even think of where to look, you know, where I'm telling him. And then it turns out to be accurate, and he's totally perplexed all the time. So that's, you know, part of the show.
Okay. It sounds to me like your husband's a believer who just wants to be explained. Kind of a semi-skeptic believer.
I know, right. But you can't explain it, but you can't not explain it either. So here we are. How can you believe something that can't be explained, but how can you disbelieve? Because, you know, it's just something is so intangible. And for someone who's been trained to investigate in a way that has to be so like precise and evidential, it's just, it's mind-boggling to him. So it's cool.
But it sounds to me like you two are willing to be open-minded about where each other's at, and I think that's good.
Oh, definitely. And we worked really well together. And he says something in the pilot he says, you know, it's kind of like trying to explain love. You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, but you know that it's there. So, you know, he's right. It's just something that's so intangible that someone who's so concrete as he is, it's difficult to understand. And that's the whole kind of crux of the show. So it's really, it's fun.
Okay. So he's very supportive of you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've been together almost 20 years. And, you know, he knows, and he's used to me. So, and, you know, my mother is a psychic as well. So he kind of married into this, and he's stuck with it. So he has no choice.
Well, you two guys, y'all are running behind. Me and my wife are up to 27 years. Y'all going to have to run faster to catch up.
Yes, I think we got a ways to go, hopefully. Yeah,
but I'm going to tell you something. Once you make 20, it seems like you're past the biggest majority of your overwhelming crucial fights, and you're just getting down to the little nuisance irritational fights.
Absolutely. Yeah, now it's just the little things, you know, and it's true. And love does transform too, you know, and as you go through the years, you know, it becomes deeper and it's different. Like you said, but once you hit that 10, 15 year mark, things are kind of like, it's kind of smooth sailing, hopefully. Unless somebody's going to go through a midlife crisis, you know, then that's another thing to work through, but hopefully not.
Yeah, but pretty much by you get to 15, 20 years, you get past that change each other phase, and you'll start beginning to realize that if you're going to love each other, you're going to have to take it just the way you are.
Exactly. So at this point, he says, you know what, she's a psychic. She's got tarot cards and all kinds of things. Leave her alone. Let her be.
Yeah, she's not bothering me while I'm on my computer or my tablet.
Exactly. Let her do her thing.
But in
So,
today's world, you can see all the husbands around the world in the bathroom sitting on the john with a tablet in their hand.
right. That's true.
There was
That
the
is so
modern day
true.
newspaper.
That's so true. But,
Oh God, I shouldn't have went there, but I don't know.
no,
Devil just came
I
over
hear
me.
you. I get you. I get it. And in marriage and love is work. It's really work, but, and yeah, as you get older, things kind of settle down. But, I always stress to my clients, don't give up. It is hard and it is work, but it's so worth it. When you have those memories and you raise your children together and, your time comes when you're older and you're sitting on a rocking chair on the porch, it'll all have been worth it. So don't be so quick to throw in the towel.
Yeah, and I've learned two things about giving up. One is if you don't give up, you can never fail. You can just keep
Hmm.
trying. Two, if you do give up, you've definitely already failed and you can't win.
Absolutely true. That's the truth. Good words. But, I don't know, that's what I've been up to. And like I said, I am working on the third book and I'm constantly doing readings for people. And then if anybody calls in, I'd love to do readings. I don't know if you have the line open or not, but
Actually, I meant to. I thought I did.
mhm.
Tell everybody that if you want to call in, the number's 832-632-7904. Did I forget to do that at the beginning of the show?
I'm not sure, because I was just kind of settling in. You probably did, but if anybody does want to call in for a reading, I'd be happy to speak to them. I do them all day long. That's kind of all I do. And I'd be happy to speak to any of the listeners, or if they have questions in the chat room. I can't see the chat room because I'm not in front of a computer.
Okay, well, the chat room's pretty empty right now, but my show doesn't get a lot of live listeners. It gets a ton of YouTube and a ton of people in my archives. Reason for that being, my show only airs on Wednesday night and Saturday afternoons, and people are not used to being here all day, every day. In other words,
Right. I
uh,
do see your syndication in quite a few places, which is wonderful. So
yeah, oh yeah. I
congratulations on
mean, I do
that.
get around. Don't get me wrong.
No,
I
I
just don't
see
do it
it.
here.
No, I definitely have seen. So that's good. Because people do pick a lot of stuff up on archive. I did Blog Talk Radio for years,
Oh my
and
God, I was one of their grandfather hosts.
yeah, I think me too. I think I started in 2007. Uh,
I'm older
but
than that.
when did you start? Wait, do you remember the year?
2005. I mean,
Wow.
I was a member of their system like 3 months after they hit the internet.
And it was so cool back then. I think I was like one of the first psychics on there. And, I still look at my account and I have over, I don't know, 200,000, listens. People are still listening and shows back from 2007 and on. And,
I'm still getting listens over there too, and I've got
yeah,
a huge archive base because I was over there 5 years before I went on my own.
yeah, me too. I have a lot of archives and then it's all on iTunes as well. I think I have over 200 shows on iTunes
Same here.
yeah. And it was great back in those days, right? When internet radio was just starting.
Now there's so many of them that people can't get to all of them live.
It's true. And I'm seeing Blog Talk Radio hosts on, Fox News and CNN. I see them, commentating on different news stations. So internet radio has really come a long way since
Oh
the
yeah, no
days when
doubt.
we started.
I
Yeah.
can tell you that Blog Talk Radio has all these live listeners because they have all these shows in one location and they're broadcasting something 24/7. So people go there and they don't leave. A
Yeah.
lot of people camp there. They make it their place to live.
I enjoy listening as well. I really do. And I plan on kind of going back. I always, think, okay, I got to activate my account and get back on, but like I just have too many other things and haven't had a chance to really get back on because once I do, I really want to give it, 100%, not just, because I'm
Right.
writing, I'm doing something else, I'm doing readings. But
So
I
you're
would
not even
really,
hosting radio at all right now.
I'm not right now, no, because of the books and also this production deal, that a more development deal. So there's been a lot happening that doesn't leave much time because I also have my practice with my clients. So I'll get back. I know I will at some point.
Now, your show was Soul Journey Media, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Soul's Journey Radio, and there is a website also where all the archives are there as well. And on Soul's Journey Radio, it's not just myself. I had so many different hosts come on and host their show there. So I was also on Achieve Radio for a long time, which was wonderful over there. And I guess I don't know if it was Conscious Talk Radio also.
Consciousness Media Network, I bet you.
Sorry, Royce. I don't know if you heard a ring, but a ring came through. Mostly Blog Talk for many years.
I didn't hear a ring. I don't know why. What that was.
I don't know. Something came through. It must have been Skype.
Yeah, I was going to say that I left Blog Talk Radio 2 years ago because I was unable to pay the $40 a month.
Yeah.
And it was cheaper for me to set it up on my own website and run it off my computer. But since then, just recently, I was invited to go over to Revolution Radio once a week for a 2-hour slot from 1 p.m. Central to 3 p.m. Central and host Talk Now Radio on their network. They're a big network like Blog Talk.
Oh, cool.
And they're not charging for it. And I went over there every Thursday to kind of attract people to my show over here at the same time, in other words.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was going to say, they got like 1 million live listeners at any given point in time. I'd be more than happy to set you up over there for a reading show. I don't know if you want to be on there for 2 hours, but what we can do is you can do 1 hour with me and the other hour I can do by myself, or I can have another guest.
I would love that. I would love it. Would it be, and you would run the software, or they run the software? Because that was an issue I had in running my own show. I couldn't handle running the software and the show at the same time. I guess I'm not as good as you in, multitasking. I'm able to run the software. But if you would like that, I would love it. Is it, you said it's Thursdays?
From 1 to 3.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I'll do readings for you, during that time. For an hour, I would probably be good from 1 to 2.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Are you on the East Coast or the West?
I'm in New Jersey, so I'm on East Coast. East Coast.
So you're an hour ahead of me. It's 8:47 where you're at, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm running my own server here where we're talking right now. But over at Revolution Radio, they run the server. So all I have to do is connect to Revolution Radio Studio A on Skype with you on the line with me, and bam, I'm in.
Well, let's do it. If you're able to, someone's running the software, that would be a lot easier for me. So I'd be happy to be on board with you.
Well, yeah, and also the guy that owns the show, a lot of times he listens into my show because he likes me, if you don't mind my bragging a little bit there. I like you
too. But I like you too, so I can understand that.
But anyway, he listens in, and if he likes you, you might get contacted from some of his crew wanting to know if you want to fill a slot over there.
Right. Well,
maybe not. I can't speak for him, but
of course, yeah. But like I said, as long as someone else is running the software, that's great, because that was where I had the issue of me hosting the show and running, because I used to run off SAM, spatial audio.
That's what I'm using.
Yeah. Oh, so you're able to do it. See, I had a difficult time. I could run it for someone else, but I couldn't run SAM and also, monitor everything and then host the show. It was just a little too technical for me.
Oh, okay. Well, if that works better for you, it might be a good deal. It wouldn't hurt you to do an hour and do some readings over there, and you got a better shot of getting phone calls there than I think you do here, because over here it's mostly archives.
Right, exactly. So it would be, you're an hour ahead of me?
Yes, ma'am.
So it would be 2 to 3?
Yeah,
Or
that'd be 2 to 3 year time.
okay, okay. Well, let me. I'll shoot you a Skype message, later, and we'll set it up.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, we still got 11 minutes. Is there
Hmm.
anything else you'd like to share with everybody about your book before we let you escape?
No, that's. I mean, I really enjoyed being with you, Royce, and thank you. I want to thank you in advance, before we end, for having me. Um, just that, pick it up. It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or at the publisher's website, newpagebooks.com. And I think you're familiar with New Page Books, right?
Oh, I'm familiar with New Page. They
They're
sent all of
wonderful.
their authors and books over to Warwick and Associates, and Warwick
Yes.
and Associates sets me up with the interviews.
Yeah, and their tagline is expect something different. And New Page, they really do have quite a wonderful catalog of books. And, and like you said, you're aware of what they have, but they're a wonderful publisher. But you can pick the book up either at their website and then also look around, see what else that they have. So that's newpagebooks.com or Amazon or Barnes and Noble. And so they're also in the stores still, which I'm thrilled about, that even after 2 years, they're still on the shelves. And anyone who wants to learn about really why they feel a certain way, why they feel sensitive, why they maybe sometimes feel depressed, maybe there's a reason other than a chemical imbalance or that medication, can cure. And if they pick up my books, they might be able to identify why they're feeling the way they do. So I get so many emails about my books thanking me, really, and that's what keeps me going, Royce, is these emails and these affirmations that what I'm doing is really helping people. So it makes me feel so good, and it just keeps me going. So anybody who's listening, if you want to send me an email, please do, because I enjoy them so much. People say, this really helped me find out who I am and help me to live my life in a way that I'm meant to be, or I'm supposed to be.
More
So
fulfilling.
yeah, exactly. So, that's where these books are a gift to me, I mean, to get these emails. So anyone who feels displaced, maybe isolated or lonely, pick up the books, The Lightworker, and The Lightworkers Source. And, you might find some answers, and it really might help you. And if it does, please feel free to contact me. And that's really all I have to say. I'm really grateful to have the opportunity, and I thank New Page Books for allowing me to get this information out there to the world. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for being a guest. And I want to mention to everybody out there listening, especially you authors out there, that not only is New Page a great place to go, but there's a subdivision of Simon and Schuster called Inner Bear Tradition and Company, and Inner Tradition and Bear and Company. I'm
Bear,
sorry.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And the people over at Inner Tradition and the people at Warwick, they're both the same. They go out of their way to work with radio hosts to get you on the air and get your book, the word about your book out. And they do a fantastic job of trying to get you noticed, in other words. So they're worth whatever they ask you to put into it, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, to have Warwick is a gift as well, because, publicists they're very expensive, and, an author does need that help to get their book out. The books just don't sell themselves. It's work. Once you do write your book, that's the smallest part of your work, because you really need to get out there and create a platform to get the word out so people will know about your book. So that's a lot of work, the marketing, and they do help you with that immensely. So Warwick and New Page Books are wonderful with that. And I have heard of Bear as well. I've seen their books on the shelves.
Well, I work with 4 different publishing companies, and those just 2 of them.
Right. Yeah.
There are some a few good companies out there, and I like them because they keep me stocked and guessed.
Absolutely. And and you're a wonderful host. So I'm sure that it works both ways. I'm sure they're very grateful to have you as well.
Oh, I think
I mean
we
that.
work well together because we've been together for several years. So
Yeah.
it's been working out pretty good so far. I have no complaints, and I've heard none from them. But I do want to mention to everybody listening real quick, like before we cut and run, that I want to thank everybody who's been very patient with me during all the times that I've been in the hospital. Y'all be happy to know that there is a possibility that I found a way around the problem of never knowing when I'm going to go in. I got me a tablet PC, and I might be able to rig it where even if I'm in the hospital sick, I can use that tablet Android to conduct my show from my hospital bed. So wish me luck in that endeavor and getting that all configured.
Let's hope that doesn't have to come to that, but yes, of course. I wish you luck in everything you do and continue. You sound wonderful this evening, so continue with the healing, Royce, and better health to you.
Oh, thank you. And you're sounding pretty good too. I know last time I talked to you, you needed to reschedule. I think you said you lost your voice or something.
Absolutely, yes. I had such a bad case of laryngitis, and it lasted about 6 weeks.
That's rough.
I had to be on steroids and everything. I mean, I don't know why, if it was viral or what, but yeah.
I sometimes wish my wife would lose her voice for 6 weeks and not be able to yell at me.
Right. Sometimes it's a blessing for those around me, but no, thank God that's over with. So, that did happen. That was, I think it was a few months back. So I understand, you're going through quite a bit. So you're in my prayers.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to go ahead and call this one a wrap. And like I say, you're always welcome here. I hope to have you back on your next book. And, we got each other on Skype. Let's stay in touch.
Absolutely, Royce. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's listening.
All right, guys, I want to thank y'all. Don't forget to come join me tomorrow at www.freedomslips.com. That's the Revolution Radio Network you heard me speaking of, where Talk Now Radio is a part of their network. And from 1 to 3 Central Standard Time tomorrow, I will be talking to the author of The Vatican Heresy, and we'll be talking about how the Vatican was designed with sun worship in mind in its very structural design. Until then, folks, y'all have a good night, and we'll see you.
Most recent. There is another one in the making, but it's not yet completed. But the Lightworkers Source is the second in a series of books that really focus on the Lightworkers and just how they can help enhance their lives and kind of work with their abilities. And, the next one will probably be on relationships. That's really what I'm focusing on. But the Lightworkers Source is pretty much filled with a lot of practices and a lot of different ways that you can use your abilities. Like the first book, Lightworker, kind of explained what a Lightworker was and, help people learn about themselves. And the second book kind of teaches you ways to work with what you learned in the first book.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Kind of a 101 in-depth study, so to speak.
Exactly. It's got a lot of practices in it and a lot of tools that can help guide you to use your gifts, which is wonderful and helpful for a lot of people.
And also how to access your gifts, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of these gifts?
Well, like we talked about in the first book, if any of your listeners, got a chance to hear the first show or glance over the first book, the gifts that we talk about are empathy and intuition and awareness and all the different facets of yourself that help to make up your psychic abilities. Because we talk about the word psychic and it sounds so kind of mysterious and maybe even a little intimidating, right? But if we break it down,
sounds overwhelming.
Yeah, it kind of does for a lot of people. But really what it is just, insecurity. So the ego is the part of you that says, I'm not going to be able to do this, that I'm not going to, going to be able to get this job, or I'm going to do terribly on this interview. It's there to really protect us, but sometimes it struggles with the spirit that is limitless. Your spirit can really manifest anything, but the ego kind of holds back. So that's true. The ego is a part of everyone. Even light workers have that part of that human awareness that's called the ego, and that's something that you have to kind of learn to temper a bit in order to really enhance your spirituality.
Does anybody ever really get to a point that they're just working naturally with the ego and it's no longer an obstacle, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, like I said, you can learn to balance the spirit and the ego. See, in Lightworkers Source, I talk about that we all have to go through phases of our human existence, and the ego is a very important part of it, because when we're born, and we're born here on Earth, we need that part of us to learn how to, navigate Earth, not get hurt, and kind of experience everything on a physical level. Because obviously we're here in a physical plane, right? So we can't operate on a spiritual level all the time. So you do need to have that part of yourself that's kind of grounded here in the earth and in the physical plane to keep you safe. But you do have to learn to balance. And if you're able to balance both spiritual and the ego part of your identity, then you're in a very, very good place.
Okay, that's I've heard that before too. As a matter,
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He goes into great detail. He was a ex-CIA agent, CIA operative, and he was also a martial artist. And he'd written a book on, using your psychic to help defend yourself against physical as well as psychic attacks. In other words.
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as being, psychic attacks, I think that we're all very, depending on our level of sensitivity, we're all vulnerable to other people's energies, and we're all affected by other people's energies. So, depending on how you're able to process those energies and kind of shield yourself, like he talks about the psychic self-defense, that's how it's going to affect you. So you have to learn, and there's a lot of practices in the Lightworker Source that talk about shielding and protecting and kind of guarding yourself against other people's energies and absorbing other people's negativity, because that can happen very easily, especially for someone who's super sensitive.
Yeah, and I think it seems to me like, and again, this is nothing that I've had, I could say I've learned, through in-depth study, but it just from what I've noticed in my own life, that it seems like one of the best ways to get to somebody's psyche is by tugging on their ego with the anger and jealousy and hatred and inadequacy and things like that.
True. Again, the Lightworker Source does talk a lot about ego versus spirituality, and how ego is kind of like, it's a part of us really it's here for protection, and it's really filled with a lot of fear and a lot of the faculties that we're all born with, and how to find out which one is our strongest point and how to enhance that and work with that. And, that kind of helps you to enhance your, quote unquote, psychic abilities. We all have intuition on some level, right? So
that's what I've heard tell you, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's actually true, because, how do you account for knowing when somebody's fixing to call you and stuff like that?
Oh, definitely. And how do you know when you get that gut feeling, or when you feel like just something is not right? That's intuition, and that is coming from a higher source, because there's really no logical explanation a lot of times for that feeling, other than that maybe, we're getting some guidance from somewhere else. And so we really need to learn how to recognize and trust our own intuition, and that helps enhance what we call our psychic abilities.
Is there a danger of getting a a negative outside source as well you got to be careful of?
You know, I never really like to think that in terms of intuition or like I said, the natural gifts that we're all born with. They're all really to be used in the way you intend them to be used. So if you want to use your abilities in a way that's not for your greatest good or for the greatest good of anyone else, then I guess you can bring in some negative aspects. But it's really up to you. It's really a choice that we all have to make.
Okay.
I really believe that.
This here sounds a lot like the Psychic Self-Defense Handbook I once read by Jack Brockus.
Right.
I don't know if you heard of that book yet or not, but
For authors, filmmakers, entertainment, and all your listening needs. Listen now to Talk Now Radio, where no topic is taboo.
Hello everyone, welcome to Talk Now Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man. And joining me today is Sahvanna Arienta, and we're going to be discussing her newest book, The Lightworkers Source. Well, I want to say newest, but I've actually had this one in the making for a while now, and I went in the hospital on a prior schedule, so she's had time to write another book, so we'll ask her about that before we call this the most recent, just to be on the safe side. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody that if you want to learn more about her, you can go to www.sahvannaarienta.com, and she has all her information on that one website. If y'all like to call in, the number is 832-632-7904. And as always, you can ask questions in chat. However, now the chat room does require free membership. It's to keep the spam bots out. But we'd love to see people in the chat room asking questions. So, Sahvanna, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Royce. I'm so happy to finally be here with you. I know we had planned it a few times. So we're in the Mercury retrograde cycle, and it figures that we should come back full circle and finally get it together. So thank you very much for having me.
Well, I want to thank you for returning. I enjoyed our last interview together.
Yeah, I did as well. Thanks.
So, now, is this your most recent book we're talking about, or have you wrote another one since?
This is the